How do union agreements impact overtime pay rates? In recent news, many workers are questioning how union agreements affect their overtime pay rates. This is especially relevant as labor discussions heat up across various industries. If you are curious about how these agreements might impact your paycheck, you are in the right place. Union agreements, also known as collective bargaining agreements, can significantly influence overtime pay. These contracts often set terms that differ from federal and state labor laws. Under the Federal Fair Labor Standards Act, overtime pay applies to non-exempt employees who work more than 40 hours in a work week. The minimum overtime rate is 1.5 times the regular rate of pay. However, union agreements can negotiate terms that are more favorable for employees. For example, some union contracts specify higher overtime multipliers. Instead of the standard 1.5 times, they may offer double-time pay for overtime hours worked beyond a certain point or on holidays. This can lead to a substantial increase in earnings for employees. Additionally, union agreements may set lower thresholds for overtime pay. Instead of the 40-hour standard, some contracts might requiring overtime pay for hours worked beyond a shorter workday or fewer hours per week. This means employees could receive overtime pay more frequently than they would under standard federal rules. Moreover, union agreements can expand overtime coverage. They may include categories of employees or types of work that are exempt under the Fair Labor Standards Act but are covered for overtime under the contract. This is an important consideration for many workers who might otherwise miss out on overtime compensation. Union agreements also often detail how overtime is assigned. They may requiring that overtime be distributed fairly among employees or limit mandatory overtime. These provisions can indirectly influence how much overtime pay employees receive. Recent legislative changes, such as the tax reform allowing employees to deduct a portion of their overtime pay from taxable income, also play a role. While this does not directly alter overtime pay rates, it can affect take-home pay and employer payroll practices. Employers must carefully comply with both union agreements and federal laws to avoid wage-hour violations. This compliance is essential to prevent potential legal issues. In summary, union agreements can raise overtime pay rates above the legal minimum, adjust eligibility criteria, and influence how overtime is allocated. Employees should carefully review their specific union contracts alongside applicable laws to understand their overtime pay terms.